And so through these magical twists of fate, I ended up here. And, if I go back and tell the 14-year-old little boy,
right,
you're going to be the band director at that place one day that you admired, it's unreal, and I'm here.
Absolutely.
And I have to remind myself every day when I get stressed or upset that I'm here. I'm where I wanted to be.
Hi, my name is Dr. Marc Smith, and I'm Superintendent of Duncanville ISD, and this is my podcast, Super Intentional. I'm Marc Smith, Superintendent of Duncanville ISD, and this is my podcast, Super Intentional. Leadership matters, and I believe that everything rises or falls with the leader. And so I am so excited today to have an awesome leader in our school district, Mr. Mark Teal. Welcome to the podcast. I have so much to talk about today. I hope we can get it all in. I tell you, I'm really excited to have you here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. We're in the middle of a busy season right now.
Yes.
But, it is so rewarding just seeing what our kids are doing. Our parents are supporting us. We're just in a great place.
Well, time flies. It seems like it was just this summer that I had lunch with you. I want to walk through that. That probably was pretty interesting. Yeah. So I called you and said, hey, can you meet me for lunch? And, of course, I knew what we were going to talk about. I don't know if you knew what we were going to talk about.
Had an idea. Yeah.
You had an idea?
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm so excited that you are the leader of our band program. I wonder if you could share about your journey to this point.
Well, I'll go a little bit further back, and it'll go back to my childhood home in North Carolina. I grew up in a real small town. Reminds me a lot of Duncanville, or Duncanville reminds me a lot of my home. I was in a small band program, and I saw performances of the Duncanville band, and I saw them live at a couple contests, and I was just amazed at what they were doing. We look at our journey sometimes, and we look at where we ended up, and it's like, how did this happen, and everything just lined up. I went to school at East Carolina University in North Carolina. My professor I was studying with got a job at the University of North Texas my sophomore year. So I called my parents and said, hey, I'm moving to Texas. And I think they knew at the time that I may not be coming back after that. And then I finished school at North Texas. I decided I was burnt out in music and I want to be a lawyer. So I applied to law school, got into some law schools, and was about to take that step. And phone call came from my friend in Plano and said, we have a band director job open. Are you interested? So you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I did spend a lot of time on this, and I have a passion for music, and it worked out, and I loved it. My second year there, the district was going through some cutbacks, and Dr. Shine from Duncanville happened to be doing a workshop with all the band directors in Plano, and I knew there was a position open, and he was looking for someone like me who was a band director but also had a percussion background. And so through these magical twists of fate, I ended up here. And, if I go back and tell the 14-year-old little boy,
right,
you're going to be the band director at that place one day that you admired, it's unreal, and I'm here.
Absolutely.
And I have to remind myself every day when I get stressed or upset that I'm here. I'm where I wanted to be.
Well, we know things don't happen by accident.
Yeah.
It is intentional, and it is purposeful for you to be leading our band program at this time. Such a rich history of awesome band leaders. If you could touch on some of the history that you've inherited, but then also the expectations that are so high that Dr. Shine set and his team.
Yeah. So when Dr. Shine came in 1980, the Duncanville band was going through a huge growth. The band director prior to him had really taken the band to that next level. So when Dr. Shine walked in, they were starting to go in a good direction. And he came in and just reinvigorated the program in making sure each individual musician is capable, making sure we teach a mastery concept, finding out where the kids are and how we can get them better, and in an individualized plan. And so through his team, and through the other directors and leaders he grew, he was able to pass that down. And so one of the things I was really fortunate when I came here was I got to spend time with him, Brian Merrill, Jeff King, David Brandon, all these great people that have taken this program and made it long lasting. Programs like ours don't stay at the top level for this long. And so I've tried to take a little bit of each one. There's stuff that I'm taking from Dr. Shine, Mr. King, Mr. Merrill, Mr. Brandon, and I'm trying to find the best of all those mixed with my own, take on things just to create and continue this legacy. And like I've said before, you got the weight on the world on your shoulders. It's overwhelming. You want to be the best for the kids, your parents, and the community. And but I always look back to what would Tom do? What would Brian do? What would Jeff do? What would David do? Then what would Mark do?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what it's like being in that seat. You just outlined the history. Mm-hmm. Such awesome band directors established such an awesome foundation. And now you have to come in, like you talked about, and put your personality and your imprint and impression. What is that like day to day? And how are you going about starting off your time and tenure as the leader of the band program?
It's definitely not what I thought it was going to be. A lot of it is, but I've had a lot of self-reflection on where are we now? Where do we want to be? How are we going to get there? How are we going to maintain? How are we going to grow? And each day I have to sit back and reflect, how would, the former leaders deal with this in our current situation, in our current environment? How can I take that and adapt it to what our kids need and what our parents and community need? It's almost sometimes I overthink and I get a little too self-critical. And, I know that's, something that I've done in the past. And so I've had to give myself some grace. Mm-hmm. I don't like making mistakes. And so, going into, this position, you think, I want to change the world. Not that there was anything that really needed to be changed. But, you're thinking, I'm going to step in and it's going to be awesome. Well, you start dealing with those things that you don't deal with. And, it can get in your psyche. Mm-hmm. It can get into your brain. And so each day I try to, at the end of the day, just think back to what I'm grateful for and what went really well, and keeping myself healthy and happy so I can share that with our students.
That's powerful in leadership because, in your role, you have so many people pulling you mm-hmm. in so many different directions, and you want to serve and you want to meet everybody's expectation. But if you don't spend time to take care of you and mm-hmm. make sure you're at your best, and as leaders, if we don't do that, then we're not able to give our best. And I appreciate you sharing that, because that's the real life of being a leader, especially in charge of an organization as large as yours and with the expectation to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
A lot of accolades that we could just go down the list, state championships and state recognition that we've had, and you've been a part of that.
Yeah.
So, what's it going to take to get us back to that level? And what are the nuances that you're working on to position us?
Yeah. So competitive band and marching band in Texas is a very unique thing. There are so many fantastic groups. Even in my 18 years in Duncanville, from what's the state marching contest looked like then to what it looks like now is ever changing. Like this year, what I'm seeing from other bands' performances, every band is just doing so many great things. There's so many great educators in Texas. And so we have to, again, it's reflecting where are we at? Where do we want to be? I think we're still always in the mix for everything. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of other people are getting better too. And so we have to always constantly evaluate what's best for our kids first. Yes, we want to win everything. Yes, we want every award on the wall, but what do our kids need at this time? I think the pandemic was one of the things that helped kind of like clear the slate for us and make us really go, all right, let's reevaluate our why.
Right.
And so, making sure our culture is good, making sure our families and kids are healthy and happy is where we started. And I think right now we're in a great place. The culture in our band hall with our parents and kids is so good right now. There was moments this morning, I was just watching a class and I just smiled.
Right.
Because I looked and I went, we're in a good place. You know, whatever happens at the end of the year happens. But I know we're setting ourselves up for next year because we're growing, we're growing these young leaders. And they're going to lead the next year and the next year. So I think we've got the foundation set of what it's going to take.
That's great. The best leaders, they adapt and they're flexible. You've taught me a lot in our conversations working up to this school year about how things have changed over the years as it relates to the band program, the students that, the demographics have changed quite a bit in Duncanville in the 18 years that you've been here. And it's just a different family dynamic. And band it can be very costly and put a lot of strain on families. So how have you overcome that? How have you adjusted through the changes? And what kind of things would our listeners benefit from knowing about those new dynamics?
Yeah, so I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the community, is different, but every kid can be taught. Every kid can be, achieve at the highest level. And I think that's something that's been our strong point is nothing's changed in our expectations and our desire to have our kids mastering things. So, yes, band can be costly. It's very costly. Purchasing an instrument, getting kids in private lessons is a lot of money. Fortunately, we have a booster program that's very active and helping us out. And so our boosters, they'll run concession stands at, athletic events. They'll do some fundraisers. This year, we've started a pledge for some sponsorships. One of our goals is to get more of our community involved in what we do, not only locally in the high school, but within the community. I want, business owners in Duncanville to know what our kids do. Because you know what? We have nearly 1,000 kids in our band program, 6th to 12th grade. I run into our band kids all the time.
Right.
Fast food drive-thrus, Walmart, I'm seeing them everywhere, and I know what the impact they have. So I want to get them involved. And so our boosters have been able to get some corporate sponsorships and business sponsorships because our boosters provide some financial assistance for lessons. They'll help out. They feed our kids before away games. Last week we had Smokey D's barbecue. I happened to walk into Smokey D's one day, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I was in the South Oak Cliff Band. I played saxophone." It's like, "Oh, that's awesome." And so when our band booster president, Malcolm Tyree, talked to me, he was like, "Who are some places we could reach out to feed the kids?" I went, "Oh, Smokey D's."
Yes.
And so our kids had barbecue last week, from Smokey D's, before we went to Cedar Hill. And so we're just trying to reach back into the community. How can you help us? Because we want to help you. We want to make Duncanville ISD, the city, continue to be the city of champions, a place where we're all happy, healthy, and proud of what we're doing. And so it takes a lot of work, but we are dedicated to doing whatever it takes to get our kids taken care of, whether it's alumni donating their former instruments or us, helping a kid out whenever they need it. It's whatever it takes. And it does take a village.
Speaking of pride and alumni, so this was before the pandemic. I can't remember what year it was, but somewhere around the class of 91, 92, somewhere in there. They're going to really get on me because I can't remember the class. But it was during the time that we were still in the pandemic, so we had to do a Zoom. But I had the opportunity to speak to the band alumni, and they were all over the country that got on this Zoom. And boy, they are so proud of being a member, an alumnus of the Duncanville Band. So I want to speak to the pride and the alumni that is still so connected and engaged. And they have so many stories about their successes, and just to hear them and see them through the Zoom at that time, they're still connected. There's still this strong connection with the band. And I mean, they were giving very specific examples of when they won the state championship. As a matter of fact, I think you may know because this was the last group that won the state championship, if I'm not mistaken. So, or the first group that won the state championship. So speak to that alumni.
Yeah, so we do have a healthy there's lots of our former students out there doing great things. And, it seems like through social media, there's always someone reaching out, saying, hey, how can I help? Or, hey, the band looks great. We're so proud of what you guys do. The whole where pride makes a difference, it is our motto, but it's something we really, truly live by, is taking pride in everything we do. One thing we always say in the band hall is everything matters. When you do that rep of a piece of music or marching on the field, if you're not trying to do it at your best level, or piece of trash on the floor in the band hall, or in the cubby room, is it dirty? Is it clean? Taking pride in everything you do inside the band hall, outside the band hall, in your classes, in your workplace, in your home. It's something that you have to live by. And so I think it's been such a long thing that was instilled in our students by Dr. Shine and all the other fantastic directors, that the pride sticks with you, and it does absolutely make a difference in everything they do. One of my favorite things, especially this time of year and around homecoming, is just when students come back. And we had a student last night at rehearsal that walked into the stadium, and I went, oh my gosh, I remember that student. I remembered his name, and his mom was there with him. And I was like, when did you graduate? He was like, 2013. I went, I thought it was like 2 years ago.
Wow.
And so I remember that Zoom call because we were actually rehearsing in the baseball stadium that night.
That's right. I do remember that.
And it was pandemic band. We were doing everything we could to just keep the kids motivated and excited. And that was a fun night. And the 1986 group was the first to win the championship. And so that was very special to see just how much they really do appreciate what we're doing. And that's all I want is everyone to see the hard work our kids put in, and the pride it takes, and the dedication it takes. And it's a lifelong thing. And it's awesome just to see them come back and be like, thank you. Or to even see the growth within a day or a year or a week with what our kids are doing. And we have some fantastic, former members out there just doing some great things, and couldn't be more proud.
Well, they're watching, and they are always watching. So I got to ask you, there's been a different kind of energy in the home football games that I've seen, and in a good way. I love it. So are the kids involved at all in selecting which music they play or anything at the football games? But the crowd, everybody feels the energy.
I feel the same thing. When we came back, from the pandemic, and last year was, it was a little rocky ground, but I remember after that first game, I was like, there is a different energy. I think part of it is we're all just excited to have a little bit of normalcy again in our lives. But one thing we do is let the students take a front seat. We don't always let them pick what we're going to play, don't always make the best decisions, but, we will listen to them and say, hey, we will consider that. But like the dances they do in the stands and the chants and the cheers, that's all student led. And that has been the cool thing, was seeing that spread across the crowd, and to see the student section, to see the JROTC section sitting next to us at the last game, which was so cool, just see that pride spread all across. And I think when we're better, everyone is better. The we're all in, thing is I think that's what we do. And, seeing the, kids that aren't in band do the dances to certain cadences or songs, like, oh, cool. And having them come to the band hall and, ask us if they can be a part of things. And it does feel like a more of a community school pride that's so reinvigorating. We had pep rally, right for homecoming, 2 of the best pep rallies I've ever been a part of.
Wow.
There was just a sense of pride, and I'm glad that we're a part of it. I'm glad that we can help, the culture of the school, have that sense of where pride makes a difference, because we want that to bleed over. Yeah. We want to collaborate with all departments and again, anyone in the community, because it is a special thing, and we know we have a good thing going. And when we're better, when the school's better, when the community's better, we all benefit from that.
People don't realize it is a huge investment of time for everyone involved, but in particular, like our students, who many of them are juggling so much. One of the things that I have been most impressed with, I wonder what your thoughts are, is that as I think through the last several graduation classes and the students that are finishing, at the top of the class, and doing awesome things academically, the one common thread,
Band, fine arts.
Yes, they're in band and fine arts. So even this year, Bronson Hooper is doing awesome things academically, but also is a part of the program. So, you know, you've heard, all of us have heard from when we were very young how if you're engaged in the arts and band and music, it does help you in other academic areas. And I wonder if you could kind of speak to that and help our listeners understand the time investment, but also the translation to our kids performing at such a high level academically. That time investment doesn't hinder them at all. They're still performing at the highest level academically.
You know, when you mention students like Bronson, you know, we've had a lot of those students, you know, last year, Jamie Bowers. And again, we could sit here and I could just rattle off names. And I'm sitting here going, I wish I could, you know, because, you know, we're picking two names right now. You know, Bronson just, you know, visited MIT, and I'm like, can you bring me a shirt back just so I can like have an MIT shirt, you know? And he's also an accomplished bassoon player. He's also on the baseball team, you know, and I admire these kids. You know, we had a student a couple years ago who she was a drum major. She played clarinet. She was in our collegiate academy and would bring me grade checks that had hundreds straight down them. And her senior year, she was like, yeah, I'm done with all my courses. I just really have one course to take. And so she had band, she had applied music, she took all these things. And also we'll see her at the drive-thru at Wendy's at 11 p.m. sometimes. Don't want to admit how late I go to fast food restaurants. And I'm looking at them going, how do you do it? You know, how have you accomplished an associate's degree, done this marching band thing, which is a crazy schedule, maintain the highest academic success? It's admiring. Yes. And again, I think it's because the first thing we do every year is marching band. You know, the most visible part of our program is marching band, and it's the thing we do for the least amount of time in the year. You know, we start competition next week. Our season's over in a month. You know, and we'll, of course, you know, as our football team is incredible, you know, we'll continue to play for them, but we do that about 3 months out of the year. But it is the most visible thing. And I think because it's just a workshop in a group effort and how to manage time. You know, our students go to school until about 3 o'clock. Mondays and Tuesdays, we rehearse from 6 to 9 at night. And so because we have great, you know, young leaders in our program and great, you know, scholars, they're able to push our younger kids to say, hey, let me help you with this. You know, our high school band directors, you know, Mr. Gauss created a study buddy group so that during that 3 to 6 time before marching band rehearsal, we have students who will sign up like, hey, I'm really good at physics, or hey, I need help in Spanish. And we try to partner them up with people so they can have success. And so when we do this like group project of marching band where we have to get 350 people to score the highest score on an exam at the same exact time, and then have a group of judges, you know, decide, you know, if you're the best or not, I think that translates into how they, you know, through the remainder of the year, they manage their time. They're able to do all these things. It's admirable. Wow. I look at those kids and I'm like, man, you know, I couldn't do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from them.
So like early in your tenure, you know, when you think about, you know, if there were, you know, 3 things or 2 things that I would want to accomplish in year one to set the foundation for my tenure, you know, what would that be?
Going back to culture, making sure everything's happy. It's a safe place. It's a place where kids can take risks. Something we definitely push in our classroom is have an opinion, share that opinion, take a risk. If we ask you to do something, you know, you may fail. We learn from our mistakes. So having that place where it's safe and there's a culture of we're all in and we're all bought into this crazy thing we call band. So that's, for me, that's number one. You know, we got to have that environment so we can push the kids to that next level. Inviting back those great leaders. You know, Mr. Brandon is currently working with our middle schools and intermediate schools. He's actually there. He was there yesterday and today.
Wow, that's great.
I asked him, I was like, hey, you know, we have some young middle school directors who are awesome. Can you share with them, you know, because I can't always be down there. High school directors can't always be down there. Can you share with them, you know, just your knowledge and experience? Jeff King is coming to help the high school. You know, we still stay in contact with Dr. Shine and Mr. Merrill. So just getting those people involved in the program to guide us and the students on staying on track and taking that next step. So again, culture, involving everyone else, and then just, again, coming up with what's best for our students and understanding, where they're now, what do we need them to get to the next level, and then whatever it takes, whether it's, providing lessons, taking them to see a symphony orchestra concert, just getting that foundation solid. That way, again, we can be prepared to win. So I think you got to have that foundation of culture and just a love of what they're doing. We have kids that, they don't want to leave the band hall, and I'm like, it's 10 p.m. Please, go home. But at the same time, I like that. I like that they feel it's a home and that they want to be there. And it's an indescribable feeling. But that would, if we can get that foundation, we're gold.
Yeah. Have we gotten to the point yet where we have students that have graduated that are now actually working in the district as, whether it be a band director, choir director, or whatever?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things that we have going on is seeing our former students come back. Right now we have Mr. Voravangsi at Reed, Mr. Canales at Reed, both former Duncanville band members that came through our program. We have Miss Foster at Byrd, Miss Crowley at Byrd, who actually went through the Byrd program themselves and graduated from our program. We have former members that come back and help the band, teach the band. I think that's another reason for our success is we know what it takes to get to that level. We know the processes and the steps it takes. And to see them in those new roles and to have someone like a David Brand, Jeff King, go down there and continue to mentor them, I know that we're in good hands. I know that we are just going to continue this legacy. This lasted over 4 decades.
Absolutely.
So, when you see them as coworkers now, but, I look at them, I'm like, yeah, they were the drum major. Yeah, they were this, quirky little euphonium player, in my band when they were 9th graders. And to see what they've grown into, makes my heart smile. Well,
you have done an absolute awesome job. We talk about leadership, and the band part. You're an expert in that, and that's you've got us moving in the right direction. What is a challenge for all of us as leaders is running such a large organization. You've got your band parents, your students. You've got communicating with principals. So many spaces that you have to reach. I wonder, as a leader, for those that are watching, aspiring to be in your shoes one day, or just looking for some wisdom from a leadership standpoint, what do you do to keep yourself in the right mindset to meet all the expectations that are placed on you daily?
Adapt, listen, communicate, be vulnerable. I had this week earlier, we got a particularly rough day on Monday. And I was not giving myself the grace and the forgiveness that I deserved. And I think that's one thing that, anybody aspiring to be in a position like this of any kind is you have to have vision, and you have to obviously be an expert in your field, but you also have to understand that you're going to make mistakes. I don't like making mistakes, but Monday I let those mistakes get to me, and like I said earlier, I just had to sit back and go, you have kids up here at 9 p.m. on a Monday night working so hard for this program. Be thankful for that. Recognize what you have and push that. Don't look at the negativity that's happening or, an event that happened that causes you to lose track of what your focus and your passion is. It's very difficult. I stepped in this position thinking I knew what it was. It's completely different.
Wow.
I mean, it's not what I thought it was. And then it's like when your parents tell you as a kid, like one day when you have kids or one day when this happens, you'll see.
Yes.
I'm seeing that now. As sitting across the office from the former, leaders of this program, you sometimes go, why did that happen? Or why does this happen? Now I'm like, oh, I see why that happens. Or like, oh, I know why they were grumpy that day, because, it's, if you can just keep yourself, again, healthy, happy, communicate, be vulnerable, ask questions. I have a hard time asking questions sometimes. And I'm thankful to have, the principals I have on campus. I love that Flo Judd comes to my band hall, like at least on a daily basis, just to say, how are you? You at the homecoming game, you came up to me before the game and you said, how are things going? And of course, I went into everything great that's going on with the band. And you said, no, how is Mark Teal?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that meant so much to me because it was, again, that other reminder that if you're not at your best, you can't be at your best for these kids.
Yes.
And so I thought back to that on Monday too, like, hey, you've got a lot to be thankful for. Like, stick with that because, but again, just being open, being transparent, letting your coworkers know that you're going to make mistakes and we're going to make mistakes together, empowering them, to lead in the same way. We're all in different pathways in our journey to be a leader, and just doing everything we can to just keep growing that and to allow our home to be a place where we're all just getting better together. But for me, it's just knowing where you want to go and accepting mistakes,
right,
and just moving forward because you can't look back. You can't.
Those are absolutely awesome nuggets of wisdom for me and anyone that's leading. Effective leaders, they are good listeners, and they take time to be reflective, and they take time to think about themselves. And so those are the things that make you successful, have gotten you to this point in your career. And those are going to be the things that's going to continue to take you to the next level. And we in Duncanville, we're all going to be the beneficiaries of it. So it has been so awesome to have you here. I cannot wait to get feedback from the alumni and the band students and everyone that's going to be seeing this. I'm looking forward to just watching you work and grow and take our band to the next level. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith.
As you all know, we talk about leadership here. Leadership matters. And in Duncanville, we place such a priority on having outstanding leaders. Our band program is in awesome hands. Mr. Teal is doing a great job. And you heard just a little bit about the direction that he's taking our band. And I, along with others, we cannot wait to see all the great things that are coming down the line. Leadership matters in Duncanville. And we always say everything rises and or falls based on the leader. So this is my podcast, Super Intentional, and I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to us today.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Super Intentional with Dr. Marc Smith. Go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening on audio platforms, be sure to subscribe and rate the episodes. Follow us on all social media platforms.